4 years. Thousands of aloe plants sold every month, and less than 1 in 100 of them will ever produce a single flower spike for the person who bought it. That's not a supply problem, that's not bad luck. That's a plant sitting 3 feet from a window in a pot it outgrew 2 years ago, being watered on a schedule instead of a signal, and nobody telling the owner why that matters. If you've had an aloe vera for years, maybe it's even a family plant, passed down, repotted a dozen times, and it's never once bloomed, you are not doing anything wrong in the way most people assume. I killed the bloom on my own aloe for 6 straight years before I understood what was actually happening inside that plant. I thought I just had a non-blooming variety. I didn't. I had a plant that had never once been given the one specific trigger it needed. Here's what I want to plant in your head right now and come back to at the end. There's a single environmental shift, something growers have used for decades in commercial succulent houses, almost nobody talks about for home gardeners, that can take a healthy, mature aloe from never blooms to throwing up a flower stalk within a single season. It's not fertilizer, it's not a special soil mix, it's something most people are doing the exact opposite of right now without realizing it's the reason their plant stays green and quiet year after year. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that trigger is and whether your aloe is even close to ready for it. Let's start with the idea that ties everything in this video together. Aloe vera doesn't bloom because it's happy. It blooms because it's stressed, in a very specific, controlled, survival-triggered way. That's the whole frame. Every tactic I'm about to walk you through exists to recreate one thing, a controlled hardship that tells the plant, reproduce now, conditions won't stay good forever. Once that clicks, the rest of this stops feeling like a checklist and starts feeling like one mechanism with several levers. The first lever is age and root confinement, and this is where most people are already failing without knowing it. Aloe vera typically won't bloom until it's at least 3 to 4 years old, and it almost never blooms while it has room to spare in its pot. Commercial growers keep mature aloes slightly root-bound on purpose, packed in a container maybe an inch wider than the root ball itself. When I finally stopped rescuing my aloe into bigger and bigger pots every spring and instead left it snug for 2 full years, that's the first season I saw a stalk. The second lever is light, and this is the one most people get almost right, which is almost worse than getting it totally wrong. Aloe needs 6 or more hours of direct or very bright indirect light a day to even consider blooming. But the real trigger isn't just quantity, it's intensity at a specific time of year. In their native range, aloes experience a dry, high-light stretch before their bloom period. If your plant has spent years 3 feet back from a window getting soft, filtered light, it physically doesn't have the energy reserves to push out a flower spike. It's putting everything into just staying alive. Then there's water, and this is the one that surprised me the most. Everything I'd read said aloe likes to dry out between waterings, and that's true, but nobody told me how far. For blooming, you want the soil to go bone dry for 1 to 2 full weeks in the weeks leading into and through winter, not just dry to the touch. That extended drought isn't neglect. It's the exact signal that tells a mature, root-bound aloe in bright light that this might be its last good chance to flower, so it better take it. I'll be straight with you. None of these 3 things alone will force a bloom. I tried each in isolation for a while, convinced I'd found the answer, and got nothing. It's the stacking of age, confinement, intense light, and real drought stress together that flips the switch. And there's a fourth lever, tied to temperature, that I almost missed entirely. That's where we're headed next. That fourth lever is temperature. specifically a real winter cold period, not just less heat. Aloe vera blooms are triggered in part by a cold dormancy stretch, ideally down around 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 6 to 8 weeks. If your aloe lives on a climate-controlled windowsill at a steady 68 degrees year-round, it never experiences the seasonal cue that tells it winter happened and spring, bloom season, is coming. This is why an aloe kept in an unheated sunroom, a cool garage with a window, or even outdoors in zones 9 through 11 will often bloom readily, while its identical sibling in a warm living room 3 states north never does. That zone distinction matters, so let's get specific. If you're in USDA zones 9 to 11, you can often get your aloe through this entire process outdoors, letting natural seasonal light and temperature swings do the work for you. Bring it in only if there's a hard frost. In zones 7 and 8, you're looking at a spring through fall outdoor stretch, then moving it to a cold but frost-free space, like an attached garage or enclosed porch for the winter dormancy period. And in zones 6 and colder, you're managing this almost entirely indoors, which means deliberately finding the coldest bright spot in your house, often a north-facing room you keep cooler in winter, rather than your warmest, sunniest one. Container size plays into this too. A young aloe in a 4-inch pot has no business blooming, and won't, no matter what you do to it. It simply hasn't built up the storage reserves. You're realistically looking at a plant in an 8-inch pot or larger, root-bound within that container before bloom is even on the table. Now, the mistakes. The most common one I see is people applying stress at the wrong time, withholding water and cutting light in the middle of summer when the plant should be actively growing and storing energy for the eventual bloom trigger. Stress applied at the wrong season doesn't trigger flowering, it just weakens the plant. Save the drought and cold combination specifically for the late fall into winter window. The second mistake is fertilizing right before or during the stress period, thinking you're helping. Fertilizer signals growth and abundance, the opposite of the message you're trying to send. Feed lightly in spring and summer, then stop completely by early fall. And the third mistake is giving up after one season. Even with every lever pulled correctly, a borderline mature aloe might take that first cold, dry winter just to finish maturing and only bloom the following year. This is a multi-season project, not a one-time trick. So here's that trigger I promised you back at the start, the one commercial growers have quietly relied on for decades, and the piece nearly everyone leaves out of home gardening advice. It's not any single one of these tactics, it's the sequence, and specifically, the deliberate combination of drought and cold happening at the exact same time. Most guides will tell you to cut back water in winter. Most will tell you to give your aloe a cool spot. Almost none of them tell you to do both, together, on purpose for 6 to 8 straight weeks, because that overlap is what actually reads as survival mode to the plant. Growers who produce blooming aloes for sale don't just neglect them a little in winter, they engineer a genuine controlled hardship. That's the secret. It was never a product or an additive, it was a season you were probably protecting your plant from. Let's bring it all together. Your aloe blooms when it's mature, root-bound, getting real high-intensity light, and then pushed through a deliberate stretch of both drought and cold at the same time in late fall through winter. Never in summer, never with fertilizer working against you, and never before it's had a few years and a decent-sized pot to build up reserves. I'll be honest one more time. Even doing all of this perfectly, some individual aloes just take longer than others. But if yours has never bloomed after years in your care, it's very likely one or two of these 4 levers, age, confinement, light, or that cold drought combo, has simply never been pulled. So here's exactly what to do this week. 1. Check your aloe's pot size. If there's more than an inch of space around the root ball, hold off repotting it again for now. 2. Move it to your brightest possible spot for the rest of the growing season. 3. Mark your calendar for late fall. That's when you'll cut water completely and move it somewhere cooler, ideally 40 to 50 degrees, for 6 to 8 weeks. 4. Put away the fertilizer by early autumn and don't touch it again until spring. Do those 4 things, stick with it through one full winter, and you'll have given your aloe a real shot at something most owners never see. If this helped, subscribe so you catch the follow-up video where I show you what the actual bloom spike looks like as it develops week by week. I'll see you in the next one.